Welcome to Worldview Matters, discussing controversial issues, discerning current events, defending biblical Christianity. No topic off limits. And now, here's your host, David Fiorazzo.
Friends and family in Christ, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Worldview Matters. In a matter of weeks, we'll be announcing the details for next year's Worldview Matters Conference. Redeem the time. So important for the body of Christ. We've got 13 speakers coming to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I'll tell you about that. But I do know it's April 30th and May 1st. I do know that. We'll give you all the other details later. Right now, a friend of the podcast is back with us, Josh Wood with Them Before Us, thembeforeus.com. That's the website. You can also find them over on Facebook. You can look them up there, and that is Them Before Us. Follow them and interact with them. They post a lot of great, helpful information, just silencing those who are, I don't know, maybe deluded, maybe confused, but we're going to talk about that. Josh, thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
Hey, glad to be here.
Yeah, and you just got to, Chattanooga? You're at Tennessee for a conference. Tell us about what you've been doing.
Chattanooga. I'm from Tennessee, East Tennessee. We have there's a gathering partnered up with Live Action to equip state lawmakers to start to educate them on these issues. Not a lot of people, state lawmakers, they've got other jobs. They're trying to lead their normal life. And so we come in and we get to help educate them on some of these issues, how to defend kids. It's a whole lot of fun.
So how long have you been working with Them Before Us?
I guess going on about 3 years now.
Okay, awesome. So we had Katie Faust on recently, and we talked about the Greater Than campaign. Any updates or anything you can tell us about that? Is it growing? Is it getting, obviously it's probably getting pushback. Tell us about that.
Well, we are a coalition. I think that was one of our big goals, was to show people that there are more for us than against us. And we have now getting close to, I don't want to break any news, but we're getting up there. We may hit 100 organizations. We have far more allied leaders that have stepped out, all uniting around one principle, that when a child's right to a mother and father come in conflict with an adult's desire for some form of marriage equality, hey, the child should win. And we think that's an argument that needs to be touted around the country. And so far, a lot of people agree with us. Yes, we get our pushback, but man, we have been thrilled with the number of organizations that have locked arms with us to defend kids.
Well, I'm one of those, Worldview Matters, and my own personal ministry, David Fiorazzo Ministries. I want to just share a quote that I put on my Facebook. Greater than exists to defend the rights of children in law, policy, and culture. In today's society, children are often treated as secondary, spoken for, negotiated over, or reshaped to serve adult priorities. That's a quote from your website, but I thought I was reading something I shared about what would our great-grandparents think about what same-sex marriage and the rights of adults happening today have destroyed families. That was part of my quote. Let's go over to an article I wanted to talk to you about, our Billboard's Guide to Basic Biology. Are these billboards in different parts of the country, or tell us about this campaign?
Yeah, I mean, some of the backlash that we'll get into will demonstrate why do you need billboards up saying this message. But we put up a pretty simple billboard. No child has two moms. No child has two dads. We made the two, for those who can't see this, the two dads and the two moms part rainbow letters, okay? We put these up in a couple places in Ohio, Alabama, so it's kind of Midwest and some of the Southeast. And we weren't honestly sure how it would go. I mean, for the last 2,000 years, this would be a footnote, right? No one would care at all what saying that message. Everyone would say, duh, what does this mean? But it's interesting. They got a ton of pushback from people who wanted to argue that no, a child doesn't come out of the womb as a result of two people. A child doesn't belong with two people. A child's mother, father, maybe mothers, fathers, are whatever we say they are. And honestly, the pushback has been incredibly surprising.
Well, yeah, and you'd expect probably a lot of opposition because of what you're doing. I mean, truth has been redefined. And at the end of the article, I want to make sure we get to that and emphasize the point of this campaign of redefining words, because the left and those who would push demonic agendas they've been surprisingly successful at redefining terms and using language that sounds good, but it is so far from the truth, and it's just propaganda. So let's start with, walk us through this, Josh. Now, you put this out in a couple weeks ago, recently, actually last week or so, 5 basic truths that triggered the activists. And, you mentioned your billboard. So let's walk through this, starting with biology for me, not for thee, and anything else you want to elaborate on here as we take this point by point to equip our audience.
Well, biology for thee and not for me, it's pointing to one fundamental, maybe pattern or fact about the creation of children. Within the LGBTQ community, you see so many people wanting a connection. There was a study out of, I think it was the Williams Center at UCLA, that actually said that the adoption, which we hear all the time, is basically, if you listen to the media, the only way that children enter an LGBTQ household would be through adoption. But this study showed that the majority of LGBTQ adults do not want to choose adoption. They want to create a child. Well, why? Even that study we listed on our website, you can go see. I think it's called Biology Hypocrisy, but it lists these different statements from these adults saying things like, I wanted a connection. I wanted the kid to look like me. It felt special that they were mine. What does that sound like? That's every adult you know. Adoption is a rare, and it's a difficult calling. It's something that we believe God puts on your heart to try to repair a broken situation. It's not something just more common in one group of adults than another. Why did we think that a certain group of people, LGBTQ adults, would not want to procreate or try to create children that look like them, that share their eyes, that look like their partner? Well, it's just biologically impossible for a certain group of people, same individuals in same-sex relationships. And as a result, they get as close as they possibly can. Right? Even in lesbian relationships, we've seen this phenomenon of what's called reciprocal IVF, where 2 women will pay thousands more dollars to pull an egg out of one partner, to find a donor sperm that they'll purchase, combine it in a lab, and then put it in the other partner so that one woman is the biological mother and one woman gestates the baby. Why? Well, one of the quotes from our article says, the woman says something like, I wanted to get as much of the biological connection as I could. Well, what does that tell you? It matters so much to the adults that they're biologically connected, but yet they're bringing a child into the world that at best will have 50% of that biology.
Yeah. Can you explain, use the term in the article, reciprocal IVF, and it's a very costly procedure. Is that what these 2 women used?
Yeah, so they'll have one woman gestate. I mean, it's just crazy because IVF, as we know, it's very dangerous for the embryos. They're frozen, they're thawed, some will not even survive in the lab culture. They put their children through this massive process for one reason alone, so that one woman, the egg comes from her, and one woman gets to gestate the baby because they want that connection.
So I don't think a lot of people understand what you just shared about the IVF process, because even Christian couples who have struggled with infertility have been going down or had gone down this path. I mean, at one time, my wife and I considered it. We didn't. But I think there's a lot of confusion, or maybe the information is out there is not accurate, and people aren't being warned about what happens with all these, I guess, extra embryos. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that before we move on?
Totally. What people need to understand is that the fertility industry is just that. It's an industry. They take women and men who are heartbroken about infertility, are seeking any solution, and they're often shuttled not to doctors that might seek to diagnose what's wrong with their bodies. God created our bodies to reproduce, and so we need to use medicine to heal our bodies so they can do what they were naturally created to do. Our medical system has not done that. It's shifted us to the easy, just take a pill, just do this procedure, not let's diagnose and discover. And maybe it involves lifestyle change, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it involves surgical intervention, but we're going to get your body healthy again. IVF is the opposite. It says, we're going to try to bypass what may be going wrong, create life in a lab, and then put it back inside you. Well, the challenge with that is in order to make the numbers work and the money work, they have to create, it's like going to, honestly, Las Vegas. You need the best odds possible. So they'll create sometimes 30 embryos at a time. They'll pull all the eggs they can from the woman. They'll create as many embryos as possible. That's a child embryo. It's a child at day 3 of life. They take a snapshot at day 3. Sometimes they use AI to determine how much has the baby grown in that 3-day period in this manufactured lab created solution that is not as good as the womb. So many die just in those first 3 days because the solution is not the same. The lighting is not the same. The temperature is not the same. Well, at day 3, they essentially are able to grade. And they know from their systems and their scales how likely each embryo is to result in a live birth if given the chance. They take, of those 25 that have survived to day 3, they'll take one, the best one, the A plus. That's the one that gets implanted. The other 24 go into a freezer that pre-2005, you'd lose 40 to 50% of the embryos when you thawed them. That's how bad the technology was pre-2005. Post-2005, you now have gotten it down to 2 to 5% will die in the thaw. But to put that in perspective, your toddler, I have a toddler at home, a 2 to 5% death rate is roughly open heart surgery. So would I, even in the better situation where the technology has improved and I choose to freeze the embryo, which 98% of all IVF cycles include, would I choose to freeze the embryo for the chance at life? Would I undergo a medically unnecessary procedure for my toddler, equivalent to open heart surgery, for the possibility of life? No, no doctor would ever sign off. No ethics board would ever sign off if that was considered a child to go through an unnecessary procedure to give you a chance at life. No one would ever do that. So now you've got 24 going through a 2 to 5% chance of death if they ever make it out of the freezer, which 10 million embryos locked in freezers around the world tell you they probably won't. And then that one that got implanted, we will see if they survive to birth. When you add all that up, you end up getting somewhere around 97, 98% never result in a live birth if they're created in a lab. I mean, it's pretty shockingly bad numbers.
This is really sobering information, but we have to talk about it because so many people are not informed on this. So thank you, Josh. As part of the quote on your article here, the woman said, "I carried our daughter, so she is both of ours, but there's no dad. Where's the dad?" I want to go to your website briefly. Right on the homepage of your website, there are some statistics. Children growing up without their mother and father, 20 times more likely to end up in prison. In other words, a single parent home. Now, 2 moms is not a mom and a dad. 9 times more likely to drop out of high school, 5 times more likely to die by suicide. And you can find those right on the homepage of thembeforeus.com. And that leads me to the next question and the next part of what we want to talk about. Stepdads, they say, "Oh, you hate stepdads." Before I mention this, Josh, there is an article that came out. It's called "Do Step Parents Matter?" That is over at Them Before Us, put out by Nick Spencer and Them Before Us. But I want to make sure you guys know that's there. It gets into detail more on this. But talk about your response to this. Oh, so you hate stepdads, Josh?
Well, that's the red herring. So if I say no child has 2 moms, if I say no child has 2 dads, well, they ask, well, what about the kid who is 5 or 6 years old and his mother and father divorce? And he now sees his dad, statistically, they say that by the time a child reaches 18, if he's in a divorced family, half of those children have lost contact with one of their parents. Okay. So you take that 5-year-old whose dad, he was his hero, and now he doesn't see at all because of divorce. I mean, that's a total tragedy, right? Well, what they're insinuating is that when mom remarried, which is incredibly difficult on children to have a new male in the home that they are not related to. I can relate to this. I'm a child whose parents got divorced. These create all sorts of family dynamics. What they're saying is, oh, so you hate divorced parents, you hate stepchildren, you hate step parents because you're stating two children or children don't have a mom, two moms or two dads. Wait a second. You're going to tell that 5-year-old your mom got remarried, so now this is your second father? I mean, give me a break. No one who has been through that. Now, are there heroic step parents? Some who step in for absentee fathers? Absolutely. But you take both sides of this coin. When your dad was awesome and you lost maybe through tragedy or abandonment or circumstances, you don't have a stepfather enter the picture and then say, this is my father. I have nothing to complain about because I just got another dad. No one says that. And on the other end, when you have a dad who's delinquent, who left your mom, maybe was abusive to your mom, and she remarries, no one says, what are you complaining about? You have another dad. We replaced him. It doesn't matter that he was abandoning you. It doesn't matter he was abusive. It's just such a non sequitur argument. But what it does is it tries to distract from the fact that some people really are trying to make us believe in culture that a child comes out of a womb that someone rented, is given to two men, and we call those two men dad, and that's supposed to be normal. I'm not going to accept the argument.
Thank you. And again, friends, you can find this article over at thembeforeus.com. They're also on Substack. This one is called, about their billboard, Our Billboard's Guide to Basic Biology. Let's go to step 3, or number 3 in these myths. Oh, by the way, I love what you said. Step parents step in after a family breaks. That's pretty clear. Number 3, so you guys are against adoption? Tell us about this conversation that we're looking at on the screen there, Josh.
Like it is, I mean, this is the left's whole argument here, is to distract. So you're against adoption. What we're recognizing, no matter if a child is placed for adoption and is adopted into a wonderful home, no matter if your parents get divorced and your step parent becomes your hero, none of that takes away from the fact that a child has a mother and a father. None of that takes away from the fact that in order for that child to be adopted, in order for that child to have a step parent, the child lost something. Why does it make some adults so mad to acknowledge that the child has to lose something to find themselves in that arrangement? It's because some adults want to do it on purpose. They don't want it to be a tragedy. They want to have pre-planned it and to act like it's normal. That's the only reason they have any issue with this, is because they need it to not matter to the child.
Yeah, and I want to mention an article that Katie put out last year at Them Before Us. It's called, If You Created the Orphan, It's Not Adoption. And I'm sure she gets into that in depth. So these are just ways, friends, we've got to understand how we can respond to this growing movement and this ideology that it's just really propaganda, putting down truth and biblical morality and biology and the family unit, really minimizing the true God-ordained family and marriage between one man and one woman. So let's go on, because for the sake of time, it's going by faster than what I thought. So number 4, mind your business.
Oh,
mind your own business. This is not your business, Josh. Why is Them Before Us concerned about what I do in my home?
I got a better question. Why do people who want to do bad things to children always turn around to everyone else and say, what do you care? Stay out of my business.
Good question.
Why? I'm like, wait a second. Child protection, let's just take a Christian stand on it. Child protection has always been the church's historic interest. It's always been our vocation. Anytime anybody is threatening the life of a child, we're Americans. We love freedom. We love liberty. We love parental rights. Of course, no one would defend a child being abused. We would not say that's his right, it's his freedom. No way. When a child is being endangered or being put in danger or is being harmed, it's the right of every person. I don't care if you're a Christian or an American or whatever. Any good person is going to step in. And it's funny to me that the group who always says mind your business is the one that wants to be able to place a child with an unvetted adult, like we saw in Pennsylvania, who was on the sex offender registry, who bought a child through a surrogate and took a
Wow.
kid home, even though he had been put in jail as a pedophile. Wait a second. It's like, mind my business. It's exactly my business to prevent you from acquiring a child.
Wow, this is just some amazing stuff that we hear about, and people are hopefully starting to connect the dots and wanting to protect children like you guys are trying to do. There was something I was going to. Oh, I love this comment of someone, a woman that commented on the posts about the billboards you guys put up and said, "I appreciate your message. You changed my mind on IVF and surrogacy. Thank you for all you're doing." And that's what we're trying to do, raise awareness about this, inform people, especially the Christian community, on how we should be thinking biblically and morally about these issues. It's very important. So this is a big one, Josh, this last one. Define love, first of all. Because they said love is love. We should be able to marry who we want. We should be able to have as many children without a mom or dad. They just use love as that's their defense. All kids need is love. Josh, how do you respond to that?
Man, this one is maybe the all-timer, right? All kids need is love. What we have to translate that kind of euphemism. It doesn't matter who a child came from. It doesn't matter how they entered the world. I get to place them. They are an assignable asset that gets placed wherever I want. And so long as they have two, maybe three, four, five adults who love them, they should be fine. Again, the argument isn't over whether two men can love a child. The argument isn't over whether two women can be great caretakers for a child. Wait a second. It's an argument at its core. Will we allow society and bad actors to redefine what it means to be a child? If a mother and father are not a feeling, they're a fact. That means that when a child comes out of the womb, do we fundamentally believe as a society that that child belongs with a certain two people? Or, as this group would like you to believe, does this child come out as an assignable asset that waits until better adults get to decide through contracts and paperwork and an international supply chain of sperm, egg, and womb? They get to determine where this child fits best. I would assert that if this is a civilizational question. If a child is no longer a person coming into the world with a claim on two people, belonging with two people, then that child belongs with no one, has no purpose, can be assigned to anyone. That is a very dangerous road for society to go down.
I also want to mention at the beginning, this woman said kids should be loved. Yes, we agree with that. All children should be loved, but then it shouldn't matter who raises them. Stop. And that's what Josh just answered. It does matter who raises them, and they're redefining truth, God, truth, family, and parenting. So I love your reply to in this world, spreading hate only hurts people. So in their view, and that's their worldview, you, Christian, conservative, that believe in God and biology and the natural family unit, you're spreading hate by these billboards. And just share how you replied to that one.
Well, we can't control that stating a biological fact that everybody knows. Every single person in this world came from a man and a woman, a period. We can't control that in 2026 has now become hate speech. That is a basic biological fact that even President Obama would have agreed with before he evolved. So this is not that long ago that this became debatable. So we can't cede ground as Christians and refuse to say, well, you're not being winsome, you're not being kind. Stating a biological fact that protects children and secures their right to their mom and dad is not hate. Hate looks a lot more to me like someone getting paid $50,000 to give their eggs away to have their children handed off to unvetted men who some may be on a registry. Wait a second, is that love? No. That is not love. Love does not sell its children.
So I want to reemphasize something you said. A mother and a father are a fact, not a feeling. And then I love this quote from the article. Love does not ask a child to sacrifice her mother or father so an adult can get what they want. And that's what Them Before Us is all about. Put the children's needs before adult needs. And finally, one other quote from the article. You can elaborate on this for just a couple of minutes as we close up here, Josh Wood. We do not get to rewrite words tied to a biological reality humanity has acknowledged for centuries, and that's what they've been doing, changing language, redefining terms, rewriting words. 2 minutes, Josh. Share whatever you'd like about that.
Well, it's the important thing for every Christian to remember is that you do not have an easy choice here. You will either upset adults who want something very badly, or you will victimize children. Those are your only two options. The fact that they are so bent on redefining these words means that you have now no option to just stay silent. If you do that, we will redefine child, and we will require children go into families with 2 women and 2 men. That means necessarily that child will lose a relationship with their mother to make possible what the adults want. So is it costly to speak up? Is it costly to say children have a mom and a dad? Yes, it will cost you things at work, at home. It may even cost you things at church. But you have to remember the person you are refusing to offend is the child. The person you are refusing to let play the victim is the adults. We need to reframe. When you say, wait a second. It is the child who is being victimized here. It is the child who's being asked to sacrifice. And even though this makes you uncomfortable to hear, that child has a mother and father. They deserve to be with them, no matter what it costs you.
Josh, thank you so much. This is so necessary. Friends, I encourage you to follow Them Before Us on Substack, but you can go to their main website, thembeforeus.com. Great information, helpful information that 10, 20 years ago, maybe 20, 30 years ago, I didn't think we'd need to be having these conversations, but we absolutely do. Unfortunately, that's where moral relativism takes us, and that's these agendas that are demonic, really, against God, against truth, against family, and against Christians too, and how we want to live our lives. Brother, thank you for all that you do. Lord willing, we'll do this again.
Thank you.
Friends, thank you. Share this one. God bless you. And as always, keep speaking the truth about things that matter. We will see you next time.